And then I can start sharing my screen. And let's see, we've got Jim. Is Jim here?
Yeah, our club treasurer right now is Lucci, but she's not
I'm here.
here. And
Ah, okay. Okay, so let's see, slideshow from the beginning. So treasure basics. I bet you all waiting to hear what the dues are going to be, right? Because that's the biggest thing. But to prepare, if you're new to being a treasurer, there are online courses to take. But working with your current treasurer to find out what goes and what doesn't go and what you should be doing, that's a good thing. So all of the records should be transferred. The signature cards changed by the end of the year, which is July. So you don't want to hang on to the treasure information past June 30. Okay, but so there's a lot of planning to do that transfer. So your duties, you're going to manage funds, you're going to control funds, collect dues, manage the bank statements and all of the financial things that go along with the position. Taxes, filing your federal tax, state tax if you do that, excise tax if you're subject to that. And Jim, who is a CPA, will be talking about excise tax a little later in this session. Keeping your board informed about your finances, the bank's account balances, watching the budget to make sure you're within the budget is a really good thing that the treasurer does. So financial controls is where you want to have a separation of duties. So for instance, you want to have maybe two signatures on a check or two signatures on an authorization form for a voucher so that all of the payments are approved. You want to have the bank balance reviewed by someone else. So if the president can see the bank statement, then you can see that you don't have money going out that it's not supposed to go out. Reconcile your bank statements monthly, because if you've got something in there that shouldn't be there, there's a time limit that you are allowed to dispute it. And if you're past that time limit, you might miss that. Okay, so close your accounting records in a timely fashion, file your tax returns in a timely fashion. And you might want to have an audit committee just for oversight, transparency, and continuity. So that would be maybe two people that can just review the financial information to make sure it's all in order. Okay, so annual requirements, the budget, you want to approve the budget before July 1st. And so how you do that is the incoming board will, and the PE will develop that budget and present it, but it's the current board that approves it. So you want to do that before July 1st so that you know how much money you've got and you can manage the budget from there. IRS filing is due November 15th, and that is mandatory. If you miss it and you don't do it for 3 years, IRS can terminate your exemption. So you're not going to be a 501c4 anymore. And then you're going to have to do the filing yourself, and you're not able to get under Rotary's umbrella. So the clubs are 501c4s, which is tax, it's a nonprofit, you're tax exempt, but you need to be under Rotary's umbrella. And how you do that is when the club forms, you tell Rotary to put your EIN under that umbrella, and then you're covered by their group exemption. By the way, if your club is incorporated and you have corporate documents, articles of incorporation, you are supposed to send those articles to Rotary. They need to see what the name is, and also your name should have Inc. or incorporated after your Rotary Club of. So if you don't have that, you might want to let me know, and I'll let you know how to do that. But that was what Rotary needs you to do. Okay, so the IRS filing is due the 15th day of the 5th month, so after June 30. So June 30 is your year end, right? So November 15th is when you need to file your taxes. And then you're going to send that confirmation or your tax return to the grants chair at grants@rotarid5000.org, because that is needed for grant purposes. If you're not filing, you're not going to be able to get grant funds. Okay. Your general excise tax filing is dependent on whether you have income that is subject to GE tax. And Jim will go over what is considered subject to GE tax a little later. Okay, so your template for the budget is something like this. You can have it on Excel, you can have it in QuickBooks, but it kind of looks like this, where you have the income categories for membership dues and other income, happy dollars, donations, and then you have all of your expenses. So you want to make sure that you cover all of the expenses. So for the year coming up, 24-25, this is what you need to budget. Okay, Rotary International invoice is going up. So every year is going up $3. So when you include the $18 for the magazine, the insurance, council and legislation, it comes out to $102.77 per year. District
Per
dues are
member?
going up per member.
Thank you.
Per member. So that you need to make sure you're collecting from your members enough to cover the dues. District dues are going up by $5, so it's $65 a year. HRYF, so far I've heard that it's still $200 for the year to participate in the scholarship program. PETS is in LA, and so it's about 1,500. So you want to budget for that, for the club to pay for your president-elect to go to PETS. Global grants, if you pledged to put money into a global grant, and so say it doesn't go this year, you need to budget for next year, because if next year is going to go, you need to have that money available to put into that global grant, because your club pledged to put in that money to that grant, and they're counting on your money. Okay. The PETS hospitality room is $100. That's to pay for the food, for the PEs in the hospitality room, all of the goodies that we give out for to other districts. Then workshops, foundation, membership seminars, the assemblies, we used to charge. So if people are doing that in person and there's a charge for the room or the food, then there may be a charge. But right now we're doing this all by Zoom where there's no charge. RILA, find out how much RILA is going to be for your island. On Oahu, it was this year $250 per student. So you want to budget that. District conference, if you send your president-elect and your president to district conference, you want to budget for that. Next year, district conference is going to be on Oahu in Waikiki. So you want to budget for that. Okay, let's see. Pre-PETS is going to be virtual. Assemblies are virtual, so no charge on that. On the RI invoice, okay, it's the actual dues is $78.50 for the dues. Then you add $1 for the council on legislation, $5.27 for insurance, and that's the DNO and the general liability insurance, $18 for a magazine. Okay, so those are due July 1st, and when you get the invoice emailed to you, it's upon receipt. So the first invoice for July is going to be higher, because the insurance is all on the first invoice. So it's $54.52 for the July invoice and $48.25 for the January invoice. This is per member. Okay. New members, if you bring them in after your invoice, they're going to be prorated on the next invoice. District does not prorate new members. Honorary magazines is $18 if you do want to pay for that. And in RI dues are going to increase every year $3. So the year 25-26 is going up to $82. Okay, so district dues is $32.50 per member in July and January, and you're sending that one to the PO box in Honolulu. The Rotary International dues, you can send a check or you can pay them by credit card online by going to the Rotary International website. Okay. We really highly suggest that you send out your club invoices in June and December, so that people know how much your dues are going to be. And if you have people who are going to drop out, they need to drop off before July 1st and January 1st, because you're not able to adjust the invoice for Rotary International. So you really want them to get off your roster if they're not continuing. Okay. You might want to put an optional line on your invoice to the members for Rotary Foundation giving and for HRYF. HRYF is we need $20 per capita in order for you to get the 5,000 per club. Okay, so Rotary International dues are based on your member count as of July 1st and January 1st, and it cannot be adjusted. Really important that you got the correct number of people in your roster. So I would suggest don't do it on December 31st. It might not go. So you gotta maybe do it on December, well, June 15th and December 15th in order to make that website. Okay. So the Rotary International invoices are emailed to the president, the secretary, and treasurer. So you want to make sure that the email addresses are correct. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Rotary dues, where does it go? So $78, and it goes for their Rotary's legal fees, their audit, their finance, all of their operational expenses. $1 goes to Council on Legislation. $1.16 is actually the DNO, the directors and officer insurance, and then $4.11 for the general liability. Okay, so that the ones that are asterisk are the ones that are on your July invoice. Okay, so the district website, this is what you can find on the Rotary D5000 website, membership rosters, and we want you to do the membership rosters on the district website so that we can see how many members you have in your club, and we can find them in the positions that they are in if they're assigned a chair position. District dues invoices on there, the chair information, club, the president, officer information, events, and a lot of good things on the district website. So on the officer resource page, you can find the template for your district dues if you can't find it in your email. And so you just plug in right here in the yellow how many members you have, and it's going to calculate for you. And we need to change that. It's 3250 in July. Okay, we haven't increased district dues for more than 10 years. So sorry, everything is going up right now. So district grants, as treasurer, we really need you to keep good records for district grants because you may be audited. So keep in mind that for district grants, May 31st is the final grant report that's due. June 15th is when the application for next year is due. July 31st is when we need you to deposit the cash portion of the district grant into your club grant account. Okay, and then you're going to send the grants at Rotary D5000 a copy of your bank statement showing that you have the cash portion in your grant account. Okay, so today people should be getting the allocation for grants. Then you'll know how much you need to put into the grant account. Okay, so with the documents that the president-elect signed, it says that you need to have a grant account, a separate account. Okay, okay. So hopefully we can get the money available at the end of July or in August so that the clubs who need to use that money early will have it. Now, say you're not ready to do the grant application because whatever reason, you can wait until the next round, but there will be a delay before you get your money. Okay, if you are selected for audit by the grant auditor, they're going to ask you for all of these things. Yeah. So bank statements and accounting records. So you want to make sure that you have all of these in a folder, and it should be a 5-year retention for this folder. So you have your documents, your disbursement information, like all of your receipts, and so some of the key points are you shouldn't disperse the funds until your grant application is approved. So usually we tell you wait until the money is deposited to your account, then you know it's approved. But in certain circumstances where you really have to have the money dispersed, or receipts to buy things, you got to make sure that the grant application was approved. You have a separate bank account. You have 2 signatures for disbursements, either on the check or on the voucher. You want to have proof of payment for all of the disbursements. Okay. So you want to, as a treasurer, if you're doing this, keep a folder of all of these things that the auditor needs. Even if you're not going to be audited, you should keep a folder of these things because you don't know if you're going to be audited. So that would be your grant qualification documents. That's 3 things: your application, bank statements, canceled checks, your signature cards, because they need to see who's a signer on the account, your register invoices, your bank reconciliation, and you're going to make sure that you account for any assets if you had anything. Okay, so let's see.
Naomi,
Yes.
oh, I was gonna say, don't forget to add the voucher.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, you. Okay, okay, Dick, talk about the voucher. What is this voucher?
Every time you make a disbursement from the grants account, you must have this voucher thing filled out and signed by 2 people. Okay, or initialed by 2 people. And when they audit you, they're gonna ask for this.
Yep.
And we've been audited 3 times out of the last 3 years, FYI.
What? Yeah, okay. Okay, so the auditor, Ron Young, made this voucher, and they put that into the policy manual for foundation that this is required. So you need to have this, and you can get this on the district-wide website for the template. Okay, so the Rotary International website is really important because you can find the club invoice on the website. So you're going to go to My Rotary or Rotary.org, sign in, and your username is your email address. So that's why email addresses are really important. So you go to My Rotary. When you click on that arrow, this menu comes up, and then go to Club Resources, and then you will find your club invoice. So club invoice is here. And then if you wanted to see what the detail was and what they charged you for, you can go into the club invoice and get the detail report for that. Okay. And then you can also pay with the information on that invoice. Okay. Foundation contributions. If you need the forms, go to the Rotary website and go under Who We Are tab and then get involved. And there's a ways to give site page. That is where you're going to find the forms for when you send in donations. You want to try and get your members to sign up for Rotary Direct, so then it's automatic. But if you need to send it in, the contribution form is there. You want to make sure that you have the right number to give them credit for. And then you can send it in. You can do a multiple. So say you had an event where 5 people donated, you can put them all on one form. If someone wants to do it in honor of somebody else or tribute, there's a form for that as well. Okay. So use that form if you want. If somebody wants to give stock or securities or life insurance or bequest, they can contact the planned giving officer at Rotary headquarters. Okay. Okay. So Jim, is Jim here? Is Jim here? Uh-oh, I don't see Jim.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. You want to take it from here?
Sure.
Oh, let me introduce you guys to Jim. Jim Hasselman is a CPA, and he does the tax return for the district. So there were a lot of questions about GE, what's taxable, what's not taxable. So here he is.
Okay, I'm going to try and share my screen.
Oh, okay. So let me take off my screen.
And I want to share. Are you able to see this Word file?
Yep. Good to go.
Just the top part.
Okay. You can see it scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Naomi asked me to cover some issues with GE. There's a common misconception that since nonprofit organizations are nonprofit or exempt, that they don't have to pay tax. And that's not always the case. The concept with being an exempt org or nonprofit org normally relates to income tax. So IRS income tax, state of Hawaii income tax, and general excise tax is a completely separate system, totally different from income tax. So it's important to keep that in mind, that just because you're a nonprofit doesn't mean you're subject to income excise tax. One thing, the way the state works with excise tax is it's a tax on gross proceeds. And the way they look at it is everything that's a gross proceed is subject to tax unless there's a specific exemption that says it's not. So they throw everything into their basket first, and then they pull stuff out. So for nonprofits, there are a few things that are automatically always not taxed, and that's this item 2 here. And you can see I say not taxable Q8. Q8 is question number 8 from this Tax Facts 98-3, tax issues for Hawaii nonprofit orgs. For those of you who are interested in this topic, I would suggest you Google that document, download it, and read it. It's a good read. But in that document, it has a lot of good information, and the 3 items that right off the bat that are not taxable that affect a lot of nonprofits and Rotary in particular would be dues that you collect from members, not taxable. Any donations, contributions that you get, any other gifts, none of that's taxable. So that's all good. Interest income is sort of a weird one. We don't have a lot of time. Let me come back to interest income later if we have time. Logo sales, shirts, hats, that kind of stuff. Typically, if they're being sold at or near cost, the idea of putting them out into the community is to raise awareness of our organization. We're not really trying to make a profit. They're going to say, okay, fine, we don't need to pay GE on that. But if you're buying shirts at $15 and selling them for 20 or 30, and there's a profit motive there, then they would say the profit motive exists, and therefore we want you to pay GE on that. So whether you're doing things with a profit motive sometimes is a factor. Dividend income, not taxable. Well, so what is taxable? Here's the definition right out of that same document. Gross receipts derived from any activity, the primary purpose of which is to produce income, are subject to GET. What are some of those examples? Well, fundraising events right off the bat. And this is something that specific to what Naomi wanted me to talk about today. So fundraising events, and these examples are straight out of that same document. So white elephant sales, this document was written a long time ago. I don't know that too many people have white elephant sales anymore. Fairs, bazaars, bake sales, so brownies and cookies, even though those are small dollar items, subject to GET. Car washes, that kind of stuff. Gala dinners. So I think the clubs sometimes have gala dinners. Those proceeds are going to be taxable for GET. And if you're having a concert of some kind that's similar to a gala dinner, a big event, same thing. Rental income, that probably doesn't affect too many of you guys. Item D, back to the sort of the gala dinner event. This is one that can be confusing for people. Gross proceeds from the benefit dinner ticket is taxable. So, these are fundraisers. There's meant to be a donation built into, the price of the ticket. If you're, sorry, I've got I live on Nuuanu Avenue and we get a lot of, sometimes it feels like I'm in Gotham City here with airplanes and helicopters and motorcycles and all that. You sell a ticket for $150 for a gala dinner. You know, the dinner costs the event organizers, call it $50 just to make the numbers even. There's a $100 profit, if you will, or donation that's built into that. The state doesn't care that there's a $100 donation built into that. They're saying the entire gross proceeds of that ticket are taxable for GE. And so you should pay tax on that. Now, what if you have somebody who wants to make a $500 donation? I mean, they buy a ticket, instead of writing you a check for $150, they'll write you a check for $500. I would try to work with that donor and say, hey, you know what? Give me 2 checks. Give me a $150 check for the dinner, which is what everyone else is paying. Give me another check for $350, date it a different day, last week, next week, I don't care. And we'll make that a donation. And that just bifurcates that transaction and makes it a little more clear and I think supportable that 350 was truly a donation and not part of the benefit dinner. Silent auctions, you know, if you have a silent auction, you're selling donated hotel rooms and restaurant meals and airline tickets and all that stuff. All of those proceeds are going to be taxable for GE. I'm going to skip item F since we're short on time. G, advertising. If you guys have newsletters or you do any other advertising of any kind, I think some of your clubs put together calendars and you sell advertising in those calendars. That advertising would be subject to GE. There is a form G6 you can file to get an exemption. I don't think the Rotary clubs really need to do that. That's typically going to be needed to be filed by schools, hospitals, museums, those kinds of organizations that collect a bunch of revenue like tuition, admissions, that's not specifically exempt under the regs. And so therefore you need to go to the state tax office and ask for an exemption on that and they'll give it to you. If you don't have that kind of income, you really don't need to go through that process. Let me stop there. I see the time is 10:29. We've got a minute for questions, so let me open it up.
Oh, there's a question about what's the difference between a 501c3 and a 4.
All right, so a C3 is your public charity. That's your heart association, cancer, all those guys, they exist for public benefit. A C4 is more of a business league, a trade association. You know, it exists for the benefits of its members. And there may be some community benefit involved there, but it really exists for the benefits of its members. Other questions?
Yeah, concerning the G45 and G49, you know, even though we don't have any income to report to file for the GET taxes, we do file one every 6 months anyway, just to be on the records that we filed it with the state.
Yep, good idea. Starts the statute of limitations running, keeps your paperwork filed, you minimize the risk the state's going to come after you for filings, all that kind of stuff. That's good that you're doing that.
Okay. And then the question, is there an existing rule that expenses to produce a fundraising event cannot exceed a certain percentage of gross?
No.
Okay. Can you, real quick, talk about 1099s, who we need to give 1099s to?
Independent contractors, people that provide services to your organization. So if you hire a grant writer to write grants for you, you can give them a 1099. Typically, it's going to be individuals. People, it's think of them as non-paid, not non-employee employees. People who work for you, but they're not employees. And so the IRS wants you to issue them 1099. You typically don't need to give them to corporate entities, you know, law firms, accounting firms, those kind of guys.
Okay, 27 seconds. Any other questions? No? Okay, so GE, remember now, if for grant purposes, if you're subject to GE tax, you need to send in their summary, your end of the year summary. And the end of the year should be June 30, just like your tax. Okay,
Thanks, everyone.
thank you. Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome.